All right.
Jean says she's on hold.
All right, let's get started. Sorry for the delay, but thank you everyone for joining the Peninsula Clean Energy San Jose Clean Energy webinar for our long-term renewables RFO.
Hello?
Yep, hi, John.
Hi, sorry, Siobhan. I was trying to be on the phone, but there was a problem there, so I joined with the computer.
All right, we're just getting started. Thank you. All right. So here's our agenda for today. We'll go through a couple of housekeeping items on how the webinar works. We'll go through some introductions, and then we'll go through some details on the RFO. At the end, we'll go through the Q&A we've received so far, and then if any additional questions come up during the webinar, we can continue answering those for the time we have. So a little bit of housekeeping on how the webinar works. Audio for attendees has been disabled, but please just keep your phone on mute so we don't have any interruptions. If you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to submit those, please, via the text chat window. And then we'll answer those questions in the time available at the end of the presentation. All of the questions that are discussed in the webinar, as well as any questions submitted through the Q&A form, will be posted to the RFO website in a Q&A response by August 28th. Video is disabled for everyone, and we are also recording this webinar, and we'll post the recording to the RFO website after the webinar is over. All right, so we'll go through some introductions. This is Siobhan Doherty. I'm the Director of Power Resources at Peninsula Clean Energy. And then Jean, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Jean Soler. I'm the Deputy Director of Power Resources for San Jose Clean Energy.
And this is Phil Cornish. I'm Senior Power Resources Specialist with San Jose Clean Energy, working with Jean.
And we've got a couple of additional team members on the phone in case any questions come up that the three of us can't answer. And we'll share the presenting duties. So we'll go forward now. I think, John, you're up next, right?
Okay. Siobhan, will you move the slides?
Yes, I will.
Okay. So a little bit of an overview. Our objective is to solicit and evaluate offers for long-term renewable energy or renewable energy plus storage in order to fulfill our respective energy procurement obligations and our internal goals. And by long-term renewable energy or renewable energy plus storage, we mean 10 years or longer. All of the bids must comply with our specifications. We intend to collect or made available to us through the price all relevant energy, environmental attribute, resource adequacy, and ancillary service benefits from the project as applicable. We will shortlist and contract individually with bidders, meaning you'll put in one bid to us and each of us will review that bid pursuant to our respective scoring criteria, which we'll discuss further. And each of us will come up with our own short list and we'll follow up with our own shortlisted bidders. If it turns out that there's a project that we're both interested in, we will discuss that together and decide how much of the capacity each of us is interested in pursuing. And then we will coordinate with each other and with you as to the best way to come up with an agreement, trying to maximize the efficiency of that process. But ultimately, each of us would contract individually with the bidder for their share of the contract. So next slide. A little bit about San Jose Clean Energy. We were established in 2017 by the city of San Jose. We commenced serving most of our customers in February of 2019. We currently serve more than 328,000 customers, and we have a peak load of about 1 gigawatt. We're responsible for purchasing about 5,000 gigawatt hours of electricity annually, and we have an annual operating budget of over $300 million. Our objective is to provide clean, renewable energy at competitive rates in order to help meet our Climate Smart San Jose goals and to provide local benefits. Climate Smart San Jose is a plan by the city of San Jose to meet its share of the Paris climate commitments. In 2020, our default energy service green source was 86% carbon free and 45% renewable, and our rates were 1% below PG&E. This adds up to over $3 million community-wide savings. And our customers can also choose to upgrade to Total Green, which is 100% renewable. And our council decides what our product mix will be from year to year. And if you want more information, there's lots of information on our website, the link of which is listed on the slides.
All right, so Peninsula Clean Energy serves all of San Mateo County. We started serving San Mateo in 2016. Our goal, apologies. Our goal is to provide our customers with 100% renewable energy by 2025. We have investment grade credit ratings from both Moody's and Fitch. As of the end of December 2019, we had an unaudited cash balance of $174 million, which represents 264 days of cash on hand, which is well in excess of our board policy. We serve about 300,000 customer accounts, representing a population of 700,000 people in San Mateo County, and our annual load is about 3,600 gigawatt hours. We have more information on our website. Our website is listed right there, and that includes our audited and unaudited financial statements.
Okay, so a little bit about the schedule. We issued our RFO on July 15th. The deadline, I think this actually has been updated a little bit, but the deadline to submit questions prior to the webinar was on July 1st. The webinar is today, August 5th. The deadline to submit questions is August 24th. And then we will provide a final Q&A addendum on August 28th. I believe, and Siobhan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we will provide responses to questions prior to that, but the last questions we'll respond to will be on August 24th, and the final addendum will be posted on August 28th. Responses are due on September 4th at 5 p.m. We will notify bidders of shortlisted status on October 30th. And then we're hoping to enter into power purchase agreements in Q1. So if you get shortlisted, we'll enter into negotiations, and we hope to have power purchase agreements finalized in Q1 of 2021. All communications are available in the RFO website. All announcements, updates, Q&As will be posted on the website. And any non-Q&A communications should be sent to that particular email. The city in particular, San Jose, has strict requirements about communications during competitive solicitations. They should only go to the designated people, so please do not reach out to us individually about this RFO, but instead direct your communications to those addresses. Next slide, please. So the Q&A process. As I mentioned before, questions are due on Monday by Monday, August 24th at 5 p.m. All questions should be submitted through the form posted on this presentation. We urge you to submit the questions to us as early as possible so that everybody has any clarifications that are required sooner rather than later as you go forward preparing your responses. We will post all questions submitted before and after the webinar, as well as responses in the form of an addendum. We will post all answers by Friday, August 28th at noon. And we will post those questions anonymously so you don't have to worry about whether or not you think your question might be might reveal some sort of confidential information about you. The questions will all be anonymous. Number of offers. We are endeavoring through this RFP to undertake very fair, even-handed, and apples-to-apples comparisons. And so there are a number of steps that were taken in order to promote this. For every particular location and facility, you can submit only one offer. In other words, and there are parameters for that. It's a 15-year offer for that project. If you have different variations that you'd like to bring to our attention, like a different pricing structure for a longer term or a shorter term or more or less capacity, you can write us about that in the narrative document. But what we're going to assess against other bids is this one offer so that we can do an apples-to-apples comparison. In addition, you can submit another offer for a facility if you're providing what we're calling a sundown renewable energy product, meaning that it isn't just a take or pay type of an arrangement, but some other kind of innovative arrangement that provides for delivering renewable power sometime other than the middle of the day. You can submit multiple submissions provided that each of those submissions is a different project. And the alternative proposals, meaning the proposals for sundown renewable energy products, they don't count towards the limit of one offer per unique facility or location.
All right, so this is Phil. I'm going to jump in and handle the next few slides. Regarding project eligibility criteria, the location is the CAISO. It can be outside, but it needs to be deliverable to CAISO. Project types are RPS, eligible generation, or RPS plus storage. The product is, the energy price should include all of the following: the energy commodity, the green attributes, capacity attributes if available, transmission charges to the delivery point. The generation pricing, we want to see this in a fixed dollar per megawatt hour format with no escalators. That'll help us keep things simple and easy to compare to the other offers. And the prices need to be priced at both the project P node and NP15. So we really need both there. Storage pricing should be in the format of dollar per kilowatt month, again with no escalator. The minimum project size we want to see is 10 megawatts, and the COD needs to be before the end of 2024. A little bit more on that later. For one project, the max is 750 megawatt hours. If we can both participate, I don't think either CCA is interested in that much for a single project on their own. And for the more traditional offers, we prefer to act as the scheduling coordinator. That does not necessarily need to apply to innovative sundown offers. And you would want to explain all of that to us in the narrative. But for the traditional offers, we want to be the SC. Let's see if I can advance the slide. Oh, there it goes. A little bit more on eligibility. The term, like Jean said, we want a 15-year term. We might be interested in others, but for the bid form, please stick with 15 so we can compare well. The development security, it's what you see here, 60 megawatts for the generation and 90 for the storage. That needs to be cash or letter of credit. On the performance security, we're gonna require the equivalent to 1 year of expected project revenues. That would be year one, assuming that's a full year. For either party, we'll take cash or letter of credit. San Jose only will accept parent guarantee if they meet the requirements. And storage operation, there's going to be a requirement for no grid charging during the ITC recapture period. After that, it's fine. We expect to operate it about 200 cycles per year for a 4-hour duration or 365 cycles at a 2-hour duration. You may specify the cost for additional cycles, and there should be no limit on the number of times per day that we can charge or discharge. And there's plenty of additional guidance in the term sheet, which will be posted hopefully on Monday the 10th is what we're targeting. Next slide, please. So minimum development progress. If it's not yet commercially operational, the project should have achieved site control and a phase 2 interconnection study. There's an asterisk there. We realize cluster 12 might not have their phase 2 just yet. We encourage those projects to bid. That the shortlisting period right now is 2 weeks. If we need to, we might extend that to 3, but if there's a delay that's out of everyone's control, then we might just get rid of those shortlisted options. But we do want to see those and do encourage cluster 12 to bid in here. You will need to provide documentation substantiating these milestones within 2 weeks, or if we adjust that, maybe 3, we'll see. If a shortlisted bidder cannot provide this documentation, we'll rescind the offer. Next slide. So for the alternative offers, or AKA the sundown offers, we're really interested in seeing new, innovative, non-traditional offers here. We've left it pretty open. We know some developers are looking at this, and we're excited to see what we get. Some examples could include delivery of power in a certain particular shape, opportunities to shift power to more valuable hours, and the ability to shift power at will for a determined number of days. We've each posted our expected hourly load in calendar year 2023. Those are attachments 1A and 1B on the website. We don't anticipate providing additional detail other than what you see there. You should consider those load profiles and our currently executed contracts. These types of proposals don't count towards the limit of one offer per unique facility. So you can do lots of different structures here. We'll take a look at all of it. Obviously, we won't be able to do the apples to apples comparison as easily on these, but we really do want to see innovative stuff here. So give it your best shot and don't hold back if you have a lot of different options. We want to see them all. Next slide. The submittal requirements, the deadline is Friday, September 4th at 5 p.m. We only will receive those at the email address shown there. That comes to both CCAs. We want you to include your company name in the subject line of the email. And the offers need to include the following documents: the completed offer form, attachment 2, the term sheet, attachment 3. There actually will be 2 term sheets, so you'll see those when they come out on Monday, and that needs to be redlined. And we will be scoring the red lines. The narrative, we'll talk about what's in the narrative in a slide coming up. The geospatial footprint in Esri shapefile or KML. We have another slide on that coming up. And then these next 2, 5 and 6, these are for Peninsula Clean Energy only. So make sure you include these. It's the Sustainable Workforce Policy and the Ethical Vendor Standards. We want you to name the documents in the naming convention shown here. So it's the company name and then the document name. If you're submitting multiple projects, please make sure to distinguish by including the name of the project in those file names. And if you're only submitting one project, you don't need to worry about that. Next slide. So the offer form has several tabs, and you're going to complete the relevant ones depending on what you're offering. Obviously, tab 1 is going to be completed by everyone, and this form will be the primary source of data for evaluating submissions. So just keep that in mind. What you put in a narrative, we'll certainly look at, but more so we'll be scoring what's in this form. Tab 2, this is the variable renewable energy for hourly. These values are going to be used for the quantitative modeling of the intermittent renewable generation resources with or without storage. Tab 3 is for the storage. Tab 4 is for the quantitative modeling of firm renewable generation resources, whether it's standalone or with storage or shaped offers. The qualitative assessment, which is tab 5, this is a questionnaire and it gathers information that we'll use to look at, the non-quantitative things. And then tab 6 is development risk, and we'll be scoring these as well. Next slide. So in the narrative, there's the following items we want to see. A general cover letter that talks about your company, your experience and qualifications, project summary. Obviously, if you have different projects, you can cover more than one here, including for number 4, the project details. Detailed site description. We want to hear where this is located, what kind of landscape it is, what surrounds it, the interconnection status, super important milestone, schedule, how you intend to finance it, Obviously, some of these will be in early stages, so you might not have your financing plan totally developed yet. Just tell us your approach to financing. Same with environmental permitting. Obviously, you're not going to have done certain permitting, but we want to hear what you have done and how you approach the permitting challenges. Any unique project risks, tell us about those. Community benefits, that can be related to the community where the project is located as well as our community. And then this is your chance to give us other offer variants, such as different CODs, different pricing, different for maybe different terms. Again, we only want to see your best offer for the 15-year term, no escalators in the bid form, but here you can tell us other variants. And then 13 is for those alternative, sundown offers, and you can, get into more specifics than you'd be able to in the bid form. Next slide. So geospatial footprint, we want to receive basically polygons and points of various items related to your project. It needs to be in Esri shapefile format. We'll take a KML file, but we prefer the Esri shapefile format. There's a whole attachment that lays out the specifications we're looking for. You don't need to load these into any special system. You just need to submit it to us. We're going to do our own analysis, and we're going to evaluate where the project is located in restricted or high conflict areas for renewable energy development. We'll score more highly on the environment portion of the rubric if the project is located in areas designated for renewable energy development or in areas that are not suitable for other development activities, such as EPA repower sites. Next slide. So this one only applies to San Jose. If you are a local and small business in San Jose, you can submit certain documentation that will get you higher scores in our rubric. And that's all laid out in those documents. You need to have like a City of San Jose tax ID, and obviously you need to be a small business, and there's certain restrictions there. So it'd be interesting to see if we have any developers here in San Jose. Next slide. I think Siobhan will take over here.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. So Peninsula Clean Energy has a couple of unique requests for developers. The first two are required for our evaluation, and the third one is optional. In the RFO protocol, we've included links to our sustainable workforce policy and our ethical vendor standard, and we ask bidders to provide a just narrative document on how you will comply with those two policies. And then the third one is optional, which is our diversity questionnaire. And there's a link to this on the RFO website. We will not use the information in the diversity questionnaire as part of any decision-making or selection. We just ask you to voluntarily submit it so we can evaluate how well we are conforming to our own internal policies and goals. Here are the evaluation criteria. They are slightly different between San Jose and Peninsula Clean Energy. So as Jean mentioned earlier, we will each be creating our own shortlist. And this is required because we each have some individual board policies that we need to adhere to. The value, the quantitative analysis will be receive the most points. So we've both assigned that 40 points. Then we'll also look at project viability based on what's submitted through the offer form. We'll look at expected environmental impacts, the experience of the team, what type of, how much red line there is to the draft term sheet, any impacts on disadvantaged communities, the location of the project. And then as Phil mentioned, San Jose will look at local business and small business enterprise, and that could earn additional points. And then for Peninsula Clean Energy, we'll look at the workforce development and ethical vendor standard. Our goal is to notify shortlisted bidders by Friday, October 30th. Within 2 weeks, the following items are required. So a signed exclusivity agreement and a shortlist deposit of $3,000 per megawatt. The most recent phase 2 interconnection study, and if available, the interconnection agreement, a demonstration of site control, and any information on credit rating and financial statements. We will negotiate our contracts with shortlisted bidders. We may execute those contracts at any time during the negotiation phase, or we may not come to any executed contracts at all. Each of the joint CCAs will enter into a separate agreement for its corresponding share of any project selected. We may endeavor to negotiate individually or together, depending on what we think will be most efficient. For any project selected by Peninsula Clean Energy, our contracts will need to be approved by the board of directors at a public meeting prior to execution. And this may require that a redacted version of the contract be made available publicly. Any contract selected by San Jose will need to be approved by the San Jose City Council prior to execution, unless they've already authorized their Director of Community Energy to negotiate and execute such contracts. All right, so now we'll walk through the Q&A that were received prior to the webinar. We have about 25 of these. And then after this, we'll go into any Q&A received during the webinar. If you have additional questions, please do submit those through the Q&A function. I think Jean will start us off on these questions.
Yeah. So the first question Phil already discussed, which is the cluster study 12 and whether folks who are in that cluster study should bid. We would be delighted to receive those bids, so we encourage you to do so. We understand that the timing may be a little bit challenging, and we will consider that at the time that we notify shortlisted bidders on October 30th. So at that time, we'll know, we'll have more information about how the timing of this 12 affects all of this, and we'll make such changes as are appropriate to accommodate those issues. But the requirement is that we will be, or the expectation is that we will be shortlisting bidders on October 30th, and that a phase 2 study will be required within 2 weeks. But if that seems to be getting in the way of some valuable cluster 12 projects, we may give everybody an opportunity to have an extra week to deal with that. Are we going to be posting a pro forma PPA? We are going to be posting a term sheet. The goal is to post that on August 10th. It's important for people to understand that it's our expectation that the bid that you submit is consistent with that term sheet. If you have any changes that you would require of that term sheet, you need to provide us those changes in a red line. If there are no red lines, our expectation in the negotiations is that you were okay with the terms in the term sheet as set forth. So that's questions 2 and 3. What is the annual guaranteed energy production? I believe there might have been a little bit of confusion about that. You should please see page 10 of the RFO protocol. That makes it clear that the guaranteed energy production is 160% of the proposed estimated annual energy production in each 2-year performance measurement period, and that should also be clear in the term sheet. Next slide, please. So what is the event of default level for energy production? So again, that should be in the term sheet, but what you will see there is commencing on the second contract year, the adjusted energy production in any year needs to be at least 50%. And so it shall be an event of default if you don't achieve that goal of having the adjusted energy production be at least 50% of the expected energy in any contract year. And in addition, in any 2 consecutive contract years, the adjusted energy production amount has to be at least 65% of the expected energy in that contract year. So you'll see that in the term sheet. Same thing with respect to the percentage of capacity needed to achieve the PPA COD. You will have to have a nameplate capacity of no less than 95% of the guaranteed capacity at COD. And for both the generating facility and for the storage facility. And if you do not have 100% of the guaranteed capacity at that time, you will have to pay capacity damages of $250,000 per megawatt hour of shortfall. Further question, what is the development term security and the development term security amounts? Phil, I think, already covered that. It's in section 8 of the RFO protocol document. It will also be in the term sheet. It's basically $60 a kW of guaranteed capacity for the generating facility, $90 per kW for storage resources. And these can be provided as cash or as a letter of credit. And then the performance security will be 1 year of expected project revenues. They can be provided as cash or letter of credit for both PCE and San Jose. For San Jose only, we also accept parental guarantees that meet our requirements, and that will be laid out in the proposed term sheet. So next question, there are quite a few questions about the Sundown renewable energy product. Are we requesting a product that delivers only in non-solar hours? No. Our hope here is to receive innovative proposals from developers that seek to deliver to us renewable energy in all hours to match our customer load. We've both organizations have already procured a number of solar projects, and so we don't need you know, to add additional power during the middle of the day hours. What we would like to see, you know, we're comfortable with a solar project that delivers renewable energies during solar hours, but we are interested in any innovative proposals that you might have for shifting some of that delivery to sundown hours. So an example of that, San Jose recently entered into an agreement with a 7x16 delivery requirement. So we're trying not to judge what innovative approaches you all might have to offer to us, but the hope is that you, as we are thinking about shifting solar output to evening hours, which are becoming increasingly challenging to meet in California.
All right, so this is Phil again. Question number 9. Please provide operating restrictions for energy storage. And do we have a state of charge that we want the battery kept at? So on page 10, we've laid some of this out. Let's see, I don't necessarily want to read this whole thing to you, but that's basically our answer there. We only expect them to be charged by the generation resource that it's connected to, at least during the ITC recapture period. As I previously mentioned, we expect, or we want to be able to charge 200 cycles per year for a 4-hour duration, or 365 for a 2-hour duration. And in your narrative, you can specify a cost for additional cycles, which could interest us or not. I think we're leaving that open, but we are open to receiving that information. And there should be no limit to the number of times per day that they can be charged or discharged. And there is no specific state or charge, to answer the question very directly. You can propose language about the state of charge restrictions and costs in the red line term sheet. Hopefully that is a good response that covers that question. Question number 10, should the storage be designed to provide any ancillary services, or is it okay to focus on time shifting applications? So we intend to collect all relevant energy attributes, RA, AS, from the projects as applicable. Particularly in the sundown offers, there could be an offer there where that's not included in the price. So you would want to lay that out for us. But we're certainly interested in projects that would include RA. So I think we're pretty open there. For the more traditional offers, we definitely want to capture everything. Question number 11, do the joint CCAs prefer AC coupled or DC? We'll evaluate both, but we expect to be able to charge from the grid after the ITC recapture period. If you have a preference, make sure you communicate that to us in your bid. You might want to lay out the pros and cons as you see them for you, or as we should be thinking about them. Next slide. Question number 12, do the joint CCAs prefer RPS and storage over RPS only? Basically, we're open to receiving either type, but given just where everything's heading right now, we don't expect RPS only to be competitive, and we're not taking standalone in this RFO. So number 13, PCE and SJCE have slightly different evaluation criteria. Is it possible that the list of shortlisted bidders will be different? Yes, it most likely will be different, but we'll have to see what we get. When that time comes, you would most likely, you would talk to San Jose if you hear from San Jose with a shortlist offer. And then same for PCE, it would kind of go in 2 separate directions. But we have reserved the possibility that we could, jointly negotiate a single project, but we're playing that by ear. Question 14, is there a rough allocation ratio between the 2 CCAs in case of procurement from one project? We've kind of covered this already. We need to wait and see what we get. I think we're not going to specifically say which CCA is looking for which amount. We have, we're all working through our IRPs right now, and getting the necessary authority to procure certain amounts. And so, it will vary between the 2 organizations, and we're not going to be more specific than that. Question number 15, regarding the guaranteed COD before the end of 2024. Is the period of all permitted extensions unknown at the time of PA execution? Actually, my screen cuts off right there, so I can't read what's below that. Sorry about that.
Phil, I can jump in and then I'll
Go ahead.
over from here. This is Siobhan. Any extension provisions will be articulated in the PPA. And when we post the term sheet on Monday, we'll include details on what those COD requirements look like and any extension provisions.
Thanks, Siobhan. I think you're taking over from here.
Yes, thank you. All right. Number 16, in the offer form, it says COD should be before December 31. Is December 31, 2024 acceptable? What we're asking is that projects have a guaranteed commercial operation date before the end of 2024, including all permitted extensions. So December 31, 2024 is an eligible COD, but we would not want to see any extensions beyond that. Number 17, according to the RFO protocol, we wrote that we wanted to see 750,000 megawatt hours from any one project, and in the offer form we said 1 million. Yeah, this was a mistake on our side. Our goal is to procure 1 million overall across the portfolio of projects we execute, and 750,000 from any one specific project. Number 18, will this RFP satisfy our RPS requirements in the near term, or do we anticipate any additional RFPs within the next 12 months? Within the next 12 months is unclear. That will depend on the outcome of what happens in this RFP, and also whether there are any market or regulatory changes. In the future years, we do anticipate offering additional RFPs to meet our RPS requirements. In section 5 of the RFO document, there were some inconsistencies with how the offer form was eventually finalized. So we will be creating our own renewable energy plus storage generation profiles based on the renewable only generation profile. We will update the RFO protocol and post a new version to the RFO website, and we'll post both a clean and a red line version of that so you can see what changes are made. Number 20, the curtailment cap. In the RFO instructions, it was not clear. This should be 50 hours multiplied by the generating facility capacity. We'll make that clear in the RFO protocol, and that will also be clear in the term sheet. Number 21 is, do we have a preferred size of battery capacity as a percentage of PV? And no, we do not. We'll evaluate the overall project value and how the project fits within the context of each of our individual portfolios, according to the evaluation criteria we described. Number 22, do we have a desire to have the sundown offer include zero energy during solar generation hours? We have not prejudged the alternatives for sundown offers, and we encourage bidders to submit innovative offers. Sundown refers to a requirement to provide energy, sundown energy, rather than a prohibition of providing sun up. So we're more interested in seeing generation in the non-solar hours, but we're not saying that there can be no generation during solar hours. Number 23 is, could we put a weighted value on energy in a 12 by 24 hour format? And we have not prejudged alternatives for this, but we encourage you guys to submit innovative offers. Again, number 24 is about the sundown option. Would we want bidders to help optimize the design and have PCE in San Jose retain the scheduling coordinator rights? Or would we be open to bidders optimizing offer in a time of day weighted format when energy is delivered and the bidder retains scheduling coordinator responsibilities? We don't have a preference. We haven't prejudged these, but we are in traditional take or pay offers. We do want to be the scheduling coordinator. For the alternative offers, we have more flexibility and are more willing to allow the seller to be the scheduling coordinator. There's a question about how to find the interconnection node in the pull-down menu on the offer spreadsheet. You should be able to manually type or paste it directly into the cell, and then as long as the node is in the list, it will be accepted. And then lastly, there's a request to submit an offer that includes shaping the generation profile, and asks if we could provide what our expected hourly generation is from existing contracts. We're not planning to provide additional information about our existing contracts or their generation profiles, but both CCAs have made public announcements about what long-term PPAs we've executed. So it should be pretty clear what hours we're looking for. All right, those are all the questions that we received prior to today's webinar. We have received a couple through the Q&A function. If there are additional questions, you can submit those now and we'll respond. And if you don't have them today, but they come up later, please submit them through the Q&A form. And we've included a link here again, and we will post those answers to a Q&A document on the website. We're going to take a break for 5 minutes while we review the questions we've received, and then we'll come back on here and provide answers for those. All right, thank you. This is Siobhan. I'm just going to give my co-panelists a second to get back on, and then we will go through the questions we've received. We've received 6 questions. Phil, just let me know when you're back.
I am here.
You're here. Okay, great. So we'll go through the questions that we received, and then we will also post these in a Q&A document to the RFO website following the webinar. So the first question is, are you planning to define non-solar generating hours? Non-solar generating hours are hours when solar isn't generating, so looking at early morning, evening, and overnight. The next question is, in aggregating projects that are less than 10 megawatts, can they represent 2 separate locations and 2 separate project nodes? We prefer all in one location and will require all settlements to occur at one project node, one pricing node. The next one is a question that Phil will be responding to, and that is are there benefits added by having a bidder located in the city of San Jose?
Yeah, so the answer there is in the scoring rubric, yes, you can score additional points for being a local and a small business. The city of San Jose adopted that into their Muni code for all procurement, a while ago, and basically just wants to encourage local and small businesses. Obviously, those companies in San Jose would be paying taxes in San Jose, so there's a benefit there. But beyond that, no, but if you can score those points, you certainly should read those requirements and submit the proper documentation. And San Jose likes local and small businesses.
Thank you, Phil. And then the next one is also for Phil. Does San Jose Clean Energy have a credit rating? And if not, when will they have one?
Yeah, so we currently don't. And thank you for asking that question. I want to make it super clear that any bids submitted should not be contingent on us getting a credit rating. We currently don't have one. We fully intend to get one. We don't have enough years of operation under our belt to even try to get one at this point. When we do try to get one, I don't know which rating agency we'll pursue. Could be one or more than one. Yeah, so the answer is no, we don't have one. We will get one, and make sure that your bid takes that into consideration. It should not be dependent on us getting one.
All right, thanks, Phil. The next question is, if submitting an alternative bid with a hub settlement, does the settlement hub need to be NP15 or will SP15 be considered? We're asking that in this case that you include the NP15 pricing in the offer form. And if you'd like to propose an SP15 settlement, to include that in your narrative in the appropriate section. And then the final question, if submitting an alternative bid differs materially from the commercial terms outlined in the term sheet, how should the commercial terms be submitted and how will they factor into the evaluation of bids? We're asking that you please include any commercial terms in your description of your bid in the narrative document in that appropriate section. And we will factor that into the evaluation of bids, looking at both the value that we're getting and what the commercial terms look like. Those are all of the questions we received during the webinar. Again, if you have additional questions, please submit them through the Google form. Just to wrap up, the deadline to submit those questions is August 24th. That will give us enough time to review them and provide answers by August 28th, so you can have them ahead of the bid submission deadline, which is September 4th at 5 p.m. Pacific. Again, we're asking you to submit your proposals to the email address identified here. We will provide a recording of this webinar on the RFO website, and we again are including the RFO website here. Thank you all for participating in this webinar. We look forward to receiving your bids. All right, thank you. Goodbye.